We are back, we are back, we are so freaking back.
It is a beautiful Monday, November the 10th. The stock market just closed and things are looking pretty freaking good, especially when you consider the fact that last week they were looking the exact opposite. I'll be breaking down why the market decided to bounce today, and most importantly, I'll be letting you know what I'm personally looking for in the next coming trading days to get an idea, is this the next leg higher or is it going to be a brutal dead cat bounce? And just as a little bit of a specialty thing, because I've been lacking on some of the content lately, I'll be letting you know 3 setups that I really think everyone should be paying attention to, because these tickers think they have a lot of opportunity in them. But of course, before we get to all of that, if you enjoy these type of market breakdowns, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, say hi to your favorite community member. All that type of engagement really does help me out, so I appreciate you for all that. With that being said, let's get to it. By the time the closing bell went dingity ding 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 today, this was the official headline. Dow closes up nearly 400 points, Nasdaq rebounds 2% with end to shutdown in sight. So the overall market, the S&P 500 looking pretty good, gaining 1.5%. We're right up at this long-term trend line. We're right back up at this chop zone. There is a downside gap fill, but once again, we are back within spitting distance of the all-time high. The Nasdaq did even better, gained 2.2%. There was both an upside and a downside gap fill. We're not that far from the all-time high, and as you can see, both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq bounced off their 50 EMA. That turned out to be a phenomenal buying opportunity. Bitcoin also having a pretty decent recovery, bouncing off of 99,000 up to 1.5. For those of you paying attention to what's going on with James Wynn on Twitter and his bet against crypto, well, that's not looking so good right now, but obviously time will only tell. When you zoom out a little bit more, yeah, you can see some lower highs and lower lows, but overall, this might end up being a pretty crazy double bottom. So I'll be looking forward for that, and especially if it can recapture 110 and 111,000. So that's the daily setup. Obviously, the bulls are finally stepping up. We're seeing a big reaction in those 50 EMAs. The intraday situation was a little bit more difficult to navigate. We were bullish at open, and even though this looks small now, living through this in real time, this dip from roughly 10:30 to about 11:30 was actually kind of brutal. And then clearly we just ripped all the way into close on the SPY, the Qs. And then I do want to give a specialty shout out to both Rumble, the biggest gainer on my watch list today, 11.4%, and then Palantir, number 2, 8.8%. So if you're in either of those, obviously a massive congrats to you. So let's break down why the bullish optimism returned to the market today. Well, as that first headline alluded to, the government shutdown seems to be almost in a rearview mirror. Democrats fume over deal to end government shutdown. 8 senators broke with party to back Republicans' measure that promises votes on ACA subsidies later. I want to ask you, and please, this is not rhetorical, I would love to hear from you in a comment below. Do you think the Democrats who broke way with their party to turn the government back on, do you think that they did the right thing and the best efforts and benefits for all of us? Or do you disagree with this and you agree with the other Democrats who are angry with them? Like I said, please let me know in a comment below. But anyway, let's turn it over to the betting markets because they seem to me the most accurate thing we have going. As of now, it does look like there's actually an 89% chance that the government shutdown will be ending this week between November 12th and the 15th. So 89% chance, and they're not the only one. Polymarket basically coming in at similar odds, saying by the time we get to this weekend, the government should be opening back up. White House backs deal to end U.S. shutdown in the coming days. So I want to let you know what's going on with the House, but as of the point that I'm filming this, we're looking good on the Senate side. And in fact, as I started this video, President Trump just backed the Senate deal. As soon as it's going from the Senate, it'll go over to the House. If it is to pass the House, from that moment, that's when it's going to go to the president and obviously get signed into law. So just giving you a little quick reminder of how the civics things plays out. But anyway, if you want to go over to Bloomberg and see what Johnson specifically had to say about this, I'm talking about the speaker, feel free to do so, but I want to give you the TLDR because I don't want to waste any of your time. He basically called it the beginning of the end. When he said that and the markets found out, that's really when we started to get popping. And I guess to get a little bit more specific, government shutdown. The House will be voting on the Senate deal as soon as possible, at least according to the speaker. And really he's saying that, hey, if you're not here in DC, get your butts back here because we got to do our job. We have things to vote on. We want to open this country back up. Obviously, this has far-reaching implications, but but to us paying attention to the economy and the stock market, that means that this week we finally might actually be getting some announcements. So for the longest time, we've had these asterisks here of, are we getting CPI? Are we getting initial jobless claims? Are we getting the unemployment rate? Are we getting retail sales? Are we getting PPI? Well, for the past 6 weeks, we haven't been getting those. But if the government opens up in time this week, we actually might. So I just want to put that out there. And also the fact that, hey, this government shutdown's coming to an end. Yeah, that is part of the reason why the market was so good, but it's not the only reason. Over the weekend, we got this idea of maybe a little stimulus checks here and there. Trump proposes $2,000 dividend funded by tariffs. Here's what experts say about the plan. Well, first of all, the experts rarely know what they're talking about, so don't worry about that. Let me just remind you, in 2020 and 2021, when everyone's getting stimulus checks, well, the markets ran higher and higher and higher. For those of you who specifically want to know what's going on, people that are against tariffs are fools. We are now the richest, most respected country in the world with almost no inflation and a record stock market. 401ks are highest ever. We are taking in trillions of dollars and will soon begin paying down our enormous debt of $37 trillion. Record investment in the USA, plants and factories going up all over the place. A dividend of at least $2,000 a person, not including high-income people, will be paid to everyone. This is from President Trump himself. He posted it yesterday, November the 9th. That is another part of the reason, because historically, whenever there's more money in the pocket of everyone, a lot of it ends up going to the market, and the market ends up ripping higher. So that's another piece of the puzzle. But also on this particular note, do you think this is a good idea? This is another thing that I legitimately want to hear from you. Personally, I'm a little bit torn because we know the last time we did it, it did prompt quite a bit of inflation, but I also understand in the meantime, people need money in their pockets. So like I said, I would love to hear from you. And now moving on, third and certainly not least, talking about monetary policy, Mirren says half-point cut appropriate for December, but Fed should at least reduce by a quarter point. So remember for a little bit there how it was in question of, are we even getting a 25 bips rate cut? Well, this is the third piece of the puzzle saying, yeah, we actually probably will in December. So by the time you look at the fact that the government's most likely reopening, we might be getting $2,000 stimulus checks, and we're probably going to get a 25 bips rate cut, and all that news is coming together at once. Well, that's exactly how you get the rebound in the S&P 500 and NASDAQ that we saw today. Alrighty. And now it's time for the important part of the video. Now that we all understand how we got to where we are, the golden question, where in the world are we going? So let's take a look at the S&P 500 here. As I alluded to before, yes, you have technical bullishness and bearishness. So from a bearish one, it's pretty easy. There's a downside gap fill, and the odds of this lasting for long are not high, as in trading all the way down to 6,730. So from a technical perspective, you have to consider that. But also on the bullish technical perspective, we bounced off the 50 EMA. That was a great dip buy opportunity. We're on top of all of the major exponential moving averages. And right now we're just successfully making higher highs and higher lows. So once again, I'm trying to give you the bull case and the bear case. So please consider all of that. And I guess in terms of my personal opinion here, I understand that there's this downside gap fill, but when I look at price direction, as in really the momentum, we're above all these EMAs, price structure, and then I look at what's playing out in the options market of, okay, we closed above 6,800 and we're starting to get some positive gamma underneath. It leads me to believe that it's statistically more likely that we push up to 6,850 and then maybe 6,880 before there's maybe another round of selling. So those are the levels I'm looking to, but in reality, that's not what I think is the most interesting. In fact, there's a couple over here that I really need to call out to you. Palantir, ticker symbol PLTR, put in a higher low, bounce off the 50 EMA. Yes, there's a downside gap fill, but there's also a great upside gap fill. There was a lot of bullishness in the options market today. That delta was popping like no other. And in terms of potential, well, I'm seeing a lot of bets at 200. I'm seeing bets at 205, and the high vol point is already at 210. And that's pretty decent considering we're trading at 194. So please put that on your watch list. Next up is Nvidia, the stock to rule them all. Similar situation, bouncing off the 50 EMA. There is a downside gap fill, so please be cognizant of that. But overall, higher highs, higher lows, momentum is very strong. People bought this one like no other today in the options market. And in terms of potential, well, we did close at around 200, but I want to point out the fact that people are calling out 210. So another one to put on your radar. And last but certainly not least, check out Tesla. You're going to see a theme here. Obviously, we pumped up, we pulled back to the 50 EMA, we bounce off the 50 EMA. This one's a little bit different because there's no downside gap fill to be worried about. But personally, I would love to see that follow through above 460. And just to show you, obviously quite a bit of enthusiasm this morning. Yeah, there was a bit of weakness in the close, but overall, that's a nice movement. And in terms of where we could go, well, I'm showing you right here. A lot of people betting on 455. If it can get over that hump, well, we might be talking about 480. So like I said, that is not the exhaustive end all be all list, but I deeply believe right now in terms of risk reward and overall momentum, Palantir, Tesla, and Nvidia in no particular order should be on your watch list. And with respect to the overall market, yes, at any moment the market can keep going higher or it could reverse course. But based on all the data we have right now, looking at technicals, looking at options flow, and looking at seasonality, I think it's a pretty evident case to be made that the bulls are in control. Obviously, these are my own thoughts and opinions, so I would love to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts in a comment below. That's what I have for you today. I appreciate all the good vibes. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.